So I'm going to call Paul to the stage now, who's going to run, or maybe not. So, and I think Paul will be familiar to many for a good number of years, different company labels. Not going to steal your time, over to Paul.
Right. Thank you, Jenny. Hi, everybody, and thanks for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Paul Robinson. I'm founder of STS Group. This is a defence transition, so we're talking about talent transition from defence today. I'm just going to give you a brief overview of a solution that we've created and we now have up and running. So it's a topic that's very, very passionate to myself. Just to start with a little bit about me, ex-Air Force, I joined in '87 straight from school. At 17 years of age, and since leaving at about 96, I've worked in a number of multi-billion-dollar corporates around the world, in the UK and in New Zealand, on executive leadership teams within the talent and people industry. What I've noticed over the last number of years is that a number of businesses will always burn through a lot of cash with recruitment, but what they fail to look at is actually how can you increase your people proposition by increasing workforce planning, employer branding to be more of an attractive an employer to retain the best people. We know that talent is scarce these days, especially with closed borders. So it's always a lot cheaper to look after your current good people than it is to go to market and pay exorbitant recruitment fees. So that's just a little bit about us. I started STS Group about 3 years ago. We act as a management consultancy. We're providing talent support to a number of New Zealand leading organisations, not only saving them a lot of money, but also increasing their engagement and employability when looking for top talent within their market. So what I wanted to do today is just talk a little bit about transition. So the challenge that New Zealand Defence has with transition of talent at the moment, there's a large number of people. This is pre-COVID. The numbers have reduced, but there will be a backlog of people who decide to transition from Defence Force on an annual basis. If you look at a bell curve, it's normally around the 8-year mark where the majority of people will move on. And it can be a really highly emotional time for people who are coming out of the bubble, trying to find their way into the commercial world. And there has been some services provided on a qualifying criteria in the past. So there's a real challenge for people who are deciding to leave Defence and join the corporate world. Some leavers who transition well. I was speaking to someone this morning who left I think at second lockdown, found a job straight away. So some people do exceptionally well, but other people do find it very, very challenging to move into that ideal role first time out when they decide to leave the military. The current state, there's recently been an internal transition team set up, which is absolutely fantastic initiative. The team's working really hard to ensure that everybody is handheld through the process of transition. But there's also been common requests for a more personalised service. It's great if you attend a seminar or a transition seminar, but when you walk out the door, what does that actually mean to me and how do I execute my job search? And there's been limited support and connection post-transition. So what we do find often is the first role when people leave the military isn't always their ideal one because they haven't been able to translate their military experience into the commercial requirements. And quite often it's not their ideal role, which gives them a little bit of lack of confidence as well as they move forward. So from an employer perspective, we know that there's many NZDIA employers who know the benefits of hiring ex-military personnel. There's a number of people here today. We know that Becca take on a lot of fantastic people, but many businesses don't know how to access that transitioning talent, and it's not always visible of who's coming out when, and we always know that it's always about timing. We coach a lot of organisations around future strategic workforce planning. So you know what projects are lining up, you know what that you're looking at doing for an organisation, but when it actually comes to bringing on that top talent, having the people available to you at that point in time can be a real challenge. And we know that there's many more organisations that don't even know that the exiting military people exist. So how do we communicate those people to those organisations that would greatly benefit from the skill sets and the fantastic people that we have leaving the military? And the biggest challenge we see is employers and recruiters often don't know how to translate military experience into the commercial world and their need for the person that they need in their organisation. And this is probably one of the biggest things. I see people coming out of the military today. They've been coached on a good CV. They know how to conduct an interview. But when you read their CV, it's full of military acronyms and 3 words and what have you. That if you're a little recruiter who doesn't have any experience, how do you translate that? It becomes too hard. You get put on the too hard basket, and unfortunately, you potentially miss out on opportunities. And we see that with employers and recruiters as well. The flip side, with people leaving the military, don't always know how to translate their fantastic experience because it's not always obvious to the market as well. So there's a real problem here on both sides of the story. I've been working developing the solution for the last 2 years. I'm normally quite an impatient person, so I think I've done quite well. We've gone back and forth with Defence Organisational Development. We've got the go-ahead to start developing our solution. What we're looking at the moment, we're currently engaging with employer partners who would be interested in accessing fantastic military people coming out of defence. It must be said that we're not acting as a vacuum and sucking people out. What we want to do is we want to support people who are intending to leave and provide them a very effective pathway to the right employment for them. So it's a very big difference. We know that there's been some support provided in other areas, and quite often I think defence people can be seen as that they need extra support, and sometimes might be considered a little bit broken because of the background that they've come from. My view is fantastic people, well trained, highly disciplined, and it's exactly what New Zealand Inc. organisations are requiring. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to build a strategic pathway for organisations to be able to access talent as they're becoming available. That might be next month, you might have a project coming up in 6 months, and if we can align that talent with organisations in New Zealand, especially when you know the quality of people coming through, then we can then build a strategic pathway both for the organisation around your strategic plan, but also to support our fantastic people as they decide to leave the military. Quite often people don't move and don't leave because they're afraid or they're unaware of how to access great organisations like the members of NZDIA. So we want to create an effective pathway to the right employment first time. It's really important. And being able to articulate those transferable skills, which aren't always obvious, is absolutely key as part of the solution. So we're really excited about this. Again, it's a passion of mine. I went through this myself. I know what it's like when it's really difficult to articulate yourself. You live in a bubble of military, and then coming out into the big outside world can be a huge challenge for people to execute that pathway. So the benefits, solid pathway and advice for transitioning personnel, absolutely key, providing that support and guidance. Employer access to exceptional talent. So knowing what we see as a number of organisations, or most organisations, work in the here and now, if you can start looking further afield in regards to what you need from a competency base as you grow your organisation, and we can align that with people who are exiting the military, then that's a win-win situation. There's no large recruitment fees. One of the biggest problems that we see in the New Zealand market is huge recruitment fees. You'll know that everybody running a P&L, that one of the largest costs that you have is access to talent and bringing people in. So we want to make this solution sustainable for organisations and make sure that it's a win-win for both the military personnel and the organisations themselves. And we want to provide long-term talent planning and aligned with transitioning personnel. So if we can sit down with organisations and we can work out what that competency matrix is for your future and your strategic plan, and we highlight that with the transitioning team of people coming out, then again, we have a win-win. And I see this solving a major problem or major challenge with both defence personnel, again, providing them with that pathway, but also too, talent is scarce in New Zealand. We all want the best talent, and the best talent want to join the best organisation. With borders closed, we don't know when they're going to open up. We see a lot of money being invested in infrastructure. It's all fantastic, hearing that the government's investing in all this billions of dollars, but if you don't have the talent to execute these projects, then it's going to be quite a challenge. So making sure that we can solve both sides of the coin and helping organisations and our fantastic defence people is our overriding goal. So a nice quick snapshot of our STS Group Defence Transition Solution. I'll be calling on a number of NZDIA members who know the fantastic people that are coming out of defence, seeing if they would like to join up. We've got a number of organisations already part of the solution. We have Roger Gray, CEO of Littleton Port Company, former Lieutenant Colonel of ADF, who's going to be a flag bearer for us. He's a real advocate of what we're trying to do. We've got the likes of North Power, we've got Steel and Tube, and we're in conversations with a number of other organisations to start building this fantastic strategic solution. So thank you very much, and hope you enjoy today. Thank you.